we begin to have tyrannical danger, that when people can be made to act on these impulses, on these conditioned habits, without stopping to say, well, why? Why should I do this?
All over the world, there are examples of blind obedience leading to human rights abuses. One took place on the football pitches of Kosovo. Before the continuing breakup of Yugoslavia began, Albanians and Serbs played in the same teams. In spring 1991, as the players trained at Pristina FC, the Manchester United of Kosovo, Serb troops moved in and forced any Albanians to leave the team. Overnight, Pristina Football Club was ethnically cleansed. One of their top players, Afrim Tovalani, was 24. His future as a professional footballer was still ahead. The orders from Belgrade drove Afrim and his colleagues into the hills, where they were forced to play in secret.
We decided to play after 3 days one secret match in a village near Pristina, but the police found out and came to break up the match. They threatened us and demanded, while we were still playing and while we were still organizing matches.
What particularly shocked Afrim was how the segregation was handled.
The behavior of the Serb police was very brutal. These people weren't acting like police, but like savages. I couldn't imagine how people could behave like this to each other. There were policemen from Pristina that I knew, and I asked them, why are you acting in this manner? You know that I'm a citizen of Pristina. You've known me for a long time, and you know that I'm not a terrorist, but a citizen of Pristina, of Kosovo. They said, we are just obeying orders. This is something we need to do. It's an order from above and we can't disobey, because if we do, we'll lose our jobs. It was an order they were forced to do.
Now 33, Afrim owns a pizza restaurant. He's back playing with Pristina FC and coaches the junior squad. He's lost the best 8 years of his career.
It matters that those people weren't selected for the football team, because although it may seem trivial in itself, it's actually the thin end of a large wedge, because it can start off with something like that and it can end up with them being excluded from their jobs, driven out of their homes, not accepted as having the same rights as everyone else.
Over the course of human history, there have been more crimes committed in the name of obedience than in the name of disobedience. So it is not the disobedience, not the rebel, it's not the unusual kind of deviant person who is the threat to this society. The real threat to all societies are the mindlessly, blindlessly obedient people who follow any authority.
We've got a dominant group and a tendency to obey authority. What happens when the leader asks us to do something against our better judgment? When we're caught up in the wrong circumstances, you'd be amazed at what harm we'll do to others, even if we think we couldn't.
If someone asked me to harm someone, there is no way I would do it. No, I wouldn't.
No way.
No, I don't think I would harm someone.
I can't think why somebody would.
Do you think you could ever harm another human being?
No, it couldn't possibly do that.
No, definitely not.
They're wrong. Our step 3 on the road to tyranny looks at how readily most of us will obey an authority who commands actions against our conscience. An extraordinary experiment in 1961 at Yale University did exactly that.
Incorrect. You'll now get a shock of 75 volts. Soft hair. He kind of did some yelling in there.
Psychologist Stanley Milgram created a situation in which people were asked to act with increasing severity against another individual. In other words, do harm.
Just how far can you go in this thing?
The question is, would American citizens, ordinary Americans, do that if an authority figure dressed in a white lab coat put you in a situation where you had the power to literally electrocute a very nice stranger? Would you do it?
To this day, the results are shocking.
Teacher, you may look on if you'd like while we get set up in here. Would you roll up your right sleeve?
Here's the setup. The volunteers were told they were to be helping science look at ways to improve memory.
The teacher will read a list of word pairs to you like these. Blue girl, nice day, fat neck, and so forth. You are to try to remember each pair. For the next time,
using a word game, one person would play teacher, the other the learner.
Now what I'm going to do is strap down your arms to avoid any excessive movement on your part during the experiment.
The teacher would punish the learner when he got an answer wrong to see if this encouraged learning. And the punishment? An electric shock.
And this electrode paste is to provide a good contact to avoid any blister or burn. This machine generates electric shocks, and when you press one of the switches all the way down, the learner gets a shock.
Milgram chose 15-volt increments because each increase seemed so minimal.
This middle position after you released it to show you which switches you've used on the board.
Axe, needle, stick, blade. Answer, please. Wrong. I'm up to 180 volts.
Please continue, teacher.
Needle, you're going to get a shock. 180 volts. Can't stand it. I'm not going to kill that man there. I mean, who's going to take the responsibility if anything happens to that gentleman?
I'm responsible for anything that happens here. Continue, please.
If the leader says, look, I'll be responsible, then we are relieved that we are not going to be blamed. A lot of what we don't do is because of the fear of being blamed for a negative outcome.
Continue. Go on, please.
You accept all the responsibility?
The responsibility is mine, correct. Please go on.
Gold, dollar, necklace, moon, paint. Answer, please. Are you all right? 405 volts. The answer is moon.
Also, it becomes awkward to challenge authority. And it's easier to blindly close your eyes and keep pressing the button and not listen to the shouts of the victim, feel the pain of the victim.
Let me out of here. Let me out of here. My heart's bothering me. Let
me
out, I tell you. Let me out. Let me out of here. You have no right to hold me here. Let me out. Let me out. Let me out.
Excellent. Fast.
Let me out. Let me out.
Bird, car, train, plane.
Go on, please, with the procedure.
Please answer. 450 volts. That's it.
Now continue using the last switch on the board, please. The 450 switch for each wrong answer. Continue, please.
I'm not getting no answer.
Please continue. The next word is white.
But you think you should look in on him, please?
Not once we've started the
But
experiment.
what if something's happened to the man, had an attack or something there?
The experiment requires that we continue. Go on, please.
Don't the man's health mean anything?
Whether the learner likes it or not, we
But
must...
he might be dead in there.
What we see illustrated here is a number of the variables that are involved in transforming ordinary good citizens into perpetrators of evil, into people who blindly follow fascist, tyrannical leaders. So you need an ideology, a belief system that makes everything seem to make sense. In his case, it's we want to help people, we want to improve learning, we want to improve their memory. So all fascists start with some ideology. We're doing God's work, we're saving our country for freedom, for democracy, whatever it is. So that's a critical first step. And then what you see is you assign people roles, so people have some meaningful role within that structure. You have an authority who supervises those roles. The act that you're going to get them to do, which is ultimately evil, you start with very small steps. It's only a minor step. In his study, it's a 15-volt shock, which you can't even feel. And then you increase in incremental, small increments, this level of aggression, this level of hostility.
Down the learner with the shock. When you release it, the shock stops.
Milgram repeated the experiment 17 times. Anyone he asked said they would not electrocute a stranger. In fact, of his 900 volunteers, 2/3 went up to 450 volts. That's nearly twice the voltage in our main supply. At the end, Milgram reveals it's all a setup. The learner is an actor.
God bless you, boy. You have me shaking in here.
Nice to see you.
Same
Feel
here.
better now?
I sure as heck do.
That's good.
I thought you just about had it in there.
That's good.
Propaganda, such as these anti-Semitic posters, portray the outgroup as beasts. It makes it easier to do them harm if they're seen as less than human. In another version of Milgram's experiment, this was put to the test. The learners were described as animals. In every case, the teachers were willing to use higher voltages far more readily. We know the horrific end that was the genocide in Rwanda. But at this step, we focus on the role that dehumanizing propaganda played in inciting this tragedy.